Alright, so in this guide video, I'll be going over hero talents, talents overall, tier set, macros, DPS rotation. It varies from the ladder to ladder you play, mana efficiency, add-on, my 2s build, my 3s build, healer's role. I'm going to explain DRs, explain CD trading, paying attention to the screen. This is something that's brought up in like Absturge's stream or like Marker's stream or Metaphor's stream or Seedu's stream. Like they mention it. They don't actually fully explain how that works, and I'll go over that, and that's kind of like the biggest thing. I wish that people would talk on it more. I'll be explaining the importance of positioning and kiting, baiting kicks, and I'll even go over world PvP. My experience though, I'm not no multi-glad, I'm not no rank 1. However, this is my experience. 2.240 strictly through LFG. However, I know my class, I know how it plays, I'm playing it for a little while now. There's a lot of people who don't main Rdruid, or honestly are 1800, 1900 players who don't fully understand things, and they make guides, and then that's misinformation that you just going to go over some things from my point of view. Alright, so hero talents. So Keeper of the Grove looks really good on paper. The unfortunate situation with it is that it doesn't really work well with our tier set, as Keeper of the Grove is very... It looks like it increases our throughput mostly, but it doesn't. It really mostly just buffs our Grove Guardian and also the healing that we do while our Grove Guardian is out. The issue with Grove Guardians is that's not going to be our tier set this season. So I can honestly say that this, even right now without the tier set, just feels awful. Maybe that'll change when we get the tier set, maybe there'll be buffs, but right now it just doesn't feel... I can't be confident in my HOTS or confident in my healing I feel in arena skirmishes or 3s right now in general with Keeper of the Grove. I mean, it's literally, like, I could go over these with you guys, but it's pretty much just buffing the Trents that you spawn, and while your Trents are out, you get a minimalistic, negligible amount of healing increase on your other heals. It's really just... oh, man. It's not good. It looks good on paper, but it just feels and plays awful. However, Metaphor did discover this, so shout out to him. A little bit of secret tech on the Wildstalker side, which the more I go into this, the more you'll realize that this is realistically how I believe Rdruid should be played currently. So basically what you get is you get symbiotic blooms based off of mastery, so it increases, but it heals for over 6 seconds. And what you do is you run this talent here, Implant, which your Swiftman causes symbiotic bloom. Now these symbiotic blooms can actually stack on a target, and you run Prosperity. Now Prosperity gives you 2 charges of Swiftman, and with this you're able to have more symbiotic blooms on a target, which is a whole extra hot that stacks off your mastery. And Rdruid's main stat is mastery, so having a new hot that purely is based off your mastery, when Rdruid's whole thing is based around just stacking as much mastery as humanly possible. So having 2 charges of Swiftman to get a whole new hot which can stack is really amazing having this. The other thing too is when you have double Swiftman, that means you're getting more reforestation procs, which means you're in tree longer. And being in tree longer means that you're having higher throughput. And overall, I mean, the benefits of tree are insane, which I'll go over in later on, but it's perfect. Ignore the rest of these talents, these mean nothing. This is my world PvP build, which I'll get into at the end of the video, but yeah, honestly, this is just beautiful. I mean, I could go over other things in this tree, but honestly, you could just read these. The biggest thing is really just the symbiotic blooms and how they work with prosperity and how they how that works with reforestation, and how that works with the tier set that we're going to be getting, and then how that works with just the overall mastery stat, and how the symbiotic blooms stack off that along with all our other hots affected off of mastery. It's really just, I think that this is the way Blizzard intended us to play. And I'll go a little bit deeper on all that here in a little bit. So we'll be going over the tier set for restoration. Just real quick, regrowth, wild growth, Swiftman healing increased by 10%, which goes really good with the Wild Stalker build I was just talking about, like immensely. Your healing is increased by 8% when consuming Soul of the Forest bonus after 6 seconds. So honestly, the Wild Stalker build I was just speaking works so well with this tier set that I honestly think that this is the talent build Blizzard intended for us to use. So this is just the tier set. I think personally really good for 3s. I don't think it's the best tier set we've had for 2 druids, but I mean, I'm not complaining. So our druids really don't have a lot of macros. I guess the most important one would be canceling your trinks so you can get drinks. If you need help with this at all, setting this up, feel free to join the Discord in the description and hit me up, and I'd be more than glad to help out. But you need to have this week Aura to be able to use this macro. What this macro does is when I put my trees out, I can't really break combat because they're out and they keep me in combat, but if I use that macro like I just did, I can Shadow Meld to leave combat, drink, and then stealth. This is how you get mana as an Rdruid, so this macro is crucial. The other macro I recommend every class have is a cancel aura macro, so this way mages can't spell steal like Bop or Freedom off of you. This is just a general cancel aura macro for all classes. This just prevents, obviously, mages spell stealing. This is just a cancel form macro. It lets me just swap forms a little bit faster. That's all. Just lets me shift in and out a little bit quicker. And get into other forms just a little bit quicker. That's all. So like I'd press bear, cancel, go into cat. It's just faster the way it is. So yeah. So as far as 2s go for DPS rotation, it's basically really just keeping Rake on everybody and Moonfire on everybody. So just Rake and Moonfire uptime. Pretty much all it is. And then which I'll go into when we go into the 2s rotation and how 2s put out. They wind up being on stun DR and you have a ton of combo points and you don't want to maim, because obviously they are. So what you do instead is you would rip. So that's just some extra damage that happens over time. So really it's just Rake, Moonfire, and then rip situationally. Simple bleeds, you can just keep those up. Pretty much all it is for DPS rotation. Maybe here I'll try maybe swapping this Thrash on so that way I have more bleeds. So ignore Rake. Rake is on here because I'm just messing around with a stun opener build. That aside, your DPS rotation on 3s is strictly just keep Moonfires out. You'll find sometimes that with the prosperity talent and reforestation that you're finding yourself in tree a lot. And there is a lot of times when you're in tree and you're like, my hots are fine, everybody's fine, there's no offensive cooldowns being used from the enemy. I would cast Wraith. I personally run in 3s Master Shapeshifter. This is a personal talent. But with Master Shapeshifter, my Wraths deal 30% increased damage and give me 43,000 mana back. So when I'm in tree form, everybody's fine, everything's looking good. I'll throw some Wraiths out just to get some of that mana back. Pretty much all it is, Moonfire uptime. When you can, cast Wrath, so you get the Wrath Wraith, so that way you can get the mana back, which helps with your mana management. Alright, as far as add-ons go, we'll go over weak orders here in a second. I want to keep this part short. Most of these are just personal preference. Omni CD you have to have to track your team's cooldowns. And then I run at S Arena with Gladius EX on top of it, so that way I can track enemy offensive cooldowns. I'll go more in depth on all of that here later. And then the other thing I run is Omni Bar, so this way Omni Bar can tell me kicks, what's out, what's available, what to watch for, and then also tells me crowd control that's available, so I know when their goes are going to be next. That's pretty much all it is. So to give you a quick and simple list, that is Omni CD, Gladius, or S Arena, or Gladius EX stacked on top of S Arena, which is what I do, and then Omni CD. Pretty much all you need. If you need more than that, then don't know what to tell you. I'd tone it down a bit. I do run Gladiator Losa, but I have it set for like 4 specific spells. That's it. You rarely ever hear it go off unless I'm playing against a specific comp. As far as weak auras go, you need to have some type of heal tracker, or hot tracker, so this way you are able to keep track of your hots. Most important thing. Let's start this. So I run, where is it? Rdruid party frames. If you need this, message me in the Discord. I can send this over to you. But basically, it just shows me whichever hot to the farthest left on the left side, whichever hot is going to fall first. So Life Bloom is going to fall first here. But if I Life Bloom, now I know Rejuve is going to fall next. Now I know Regrowth is going to fall next. It even highlights and tells me when I need to Life Bloom, so that way I can get the actual bloom off the Life Bloom, like there. And then it also tells me the stacks of Focused Growth, which I'll go over more in depth here later. So this is a really good weak aura. I don't use Mez's weak aura. My best advice for that is study. I can go over more in depth overall healer things, but if you're using Mez's weak aura, that's kind of wild. I use Reclone, so that way in the heat of things I can just look over and be like, okay, it's getting close to time for me to reclone. I don't use it all the time, but it is just nice to have on the side of the screen. That's why it's so small and off away from everything. Precog, so I know when I have precog. Soul of the Forest is super important. This, I know when I get Soul of the Forest, because obviously when you Swiftmend you get it, but this is more so I can keep track and hold on to the Soul of the Forest proc without having to look up here at my buffs. So this is really good for convenience. That's really all I use. A lot of people have I mean, my UI I'd say is low mid. A lot of people have a lot of UI. I just try to keep it clean. Already a lot to focus on as a healer. Alright, so as far as 2 builds and rotation, etc., so I guess this is the meat and potatoes of 2s. So right now this is my 2s build that I'll be playing when we finally can play 2s. Same thing with the Wild Stalker, same thing I talked about earlier. Prosperity, 2 Swiftmend charges to get your Reforestation procs, and Incarnation Tree of Life, so this way you can keep healed and have a higher throughput. All of this kind of just weaves in together. As I said, with the Symbiotic Bloom to grow on a target for 8 seconds every time you Swiftmend, which we just spoke about. Symbiotic Bloom stacking off of Mastery, and Symbiotic Bloom itself can stack. So now that we've had the recap on how Wild Stalker plays out of the way, realistically, this is my build. Pretty standard. I mean, honestly, in 2s, you might not even need to play Innervate. Kind of have a free floating talent. I like the safety net of Innervate. But basically in 2s, your whole goal, right, is to create or set up. So when the gates open, you want to Life Bloom yourself, Life Bloom your second target, and then Regrowth. Regrowth will go on both Life Blooms. You just need to Regrowth yourself. You will instantly stealth. So what you can do is you can stealth, Rake, which stuns them. It lasts for 4 seconds. That one just shows 2 because I did it recently. And then you can clone him off of the Rake. And now this guy is bashed. So that's your go. That's your opener. If you're trying to help somebody, if you're trying to help with the opener, that's kind of what you do. You'd Rake, then bash, then clone the guy you raked. And then for damage, you would just put Rake on this guy, and then you would just do damage. If you have combo points to spend and you don't want to waste it on maim, you can put Rip on somebody. It's more damage, extra damage. You could also, for instance, say you Rake, right, bash this guy, clone this guy, This guy's still bashed. You have combo points now from everything. As soon as that clone comes down, you could maim them. And then after that maim, you could clone again. That maim would obviously be longer because it'd have more combo points. This is a really poor example because the numbers aren't showing. So I'll try and get like a full one so that way you kind of understand like the whole thing. But the whole point of it is keep the enemy healer in a consistent CC chain on the opener, and you want to bash the DPS so that way your DPS can just start pumping. So you can literally create the entire opener for your duo without them ever having to use any of their CC, right? Alright, so hopefully this dummy is off DR. It would be rake, bash, clone off the rake. I could be quicker with it. And then while he is stunned or cloned, I can build up maim charges or combo points using swipe, because swipe uses the least energy. Shred deals more damage, but you can get more swipes out. Build up combo points, then you can maim them off the clone. Really hard to like give an example. Probably show you some clips of stuff like that if I have any from my Twitch chat for me to post right here. If not, feel free to stop into the stream and ask once season goes live. I'd be more than glad to show you guys in real time. But yeah, that's pretty much what that is. That's kind of your opener, your bread and butter. Throughout the arena, you should be looking for times to get away. Shadow meld out of combat, drink, get some drinks out, make sure your team's hotted up, and then just, you can always leap to get the gap closer so you can rake, and you can just bash this guy, and then clone this guy. I wasn't quick with it. And then you just build up swipe. This guy's cloned. As soon as the clone comes down, you can maim. You can even maim off of that. You can even clone off the maim, stuff like that. One thing I like to do as far as baiting kicks, which works in lower rating, it kind of does in higher rating. I mean, in higher rating, people just have a burn. But like, say for instance I rake, right? That rake lasts a lot longer, but what I'll do is I'll time my cyclone, so that way it's at least 70% of the way through by the time that rake ends, because they'll be spamming kick while in the clone on me, or while in the stun, they'll be spamming kick on me as I'm cloning them, and then as soon as that ends, I'll just cancel the clone. That way they kick me out the stun, and now I can just restun them, or reclone them. So that's how I handle stuff like that. Another thing too is outplays as far as like, say a priest, right? So say, this is a really bad example because you should never really be out in the open for no reason, but just an example, priest is right here, I'm right here, I see the priest start walking towards me. There's two ways I can handle this, right? So the priest is obviously walking towards me to get a fear. I can root them, right, with mass root. That's why I take mass entanglement, so I could mass root them in place. And when I mass root them in place, they obviously can't fear, I get away. Another thing I like to do is I let them get, I'd say about like here, and then I trank, and then 9 times out of 10 I catch them fearing me in my trank, and now I'm immune to the fear, and then I can go into cat. I could build up maim charges on them, rake, put more damage on them, or I could just, they come up, go for the fear, I trank, and as soon as they fear and the trank, into my trank, I cancel it and then just bash them, and then I can run over to the DPS, maim them if I built up combo points enough, and then I could just clone them off the bash. So just outplays like that. Obviously that's situational because trank is a big survivability thing. Another thing I've noticed a lot of Rdruids in 2s and 3s not paying attention to is Heart of the Wild has a lot of utility. I'll go over this in 3s as well a little bit, but I'm just going to go over it real quick here as well. When you use Heart of the Wild, it's situational. So like in 2s, you can use Heart of the Wild to build up maim charges, or I call them maim charges, but they're combo points. Usually, technically what I'll do is when the gates open, if I'm carrying like really hard, I'll start with Life Bloom on both targets, regrowth, go here, and then I will press, after my Life Bloom and regrowth, I'll press Heart of the Wild, go into stealth, and then as I'm in stealth and heading towards the healer to do the whole combo I told you about earlier, I'm already saving up combo points, so I can just rake out of stealth, bash this guy, clone this guy off the rake, put like rake on this guy, and then as soon as that clone comes down I can maim, and and then as soon as that ends, I can clone off it, so on and so forth. That's really good, but Heart of the Wild can also be used for bear form because it increases your health pool by 20% and gives you 2 charges of frenzied regeneration, so it could also be used as a defensive and not just an offensive. Another thing too is in tree form, if you use Heart of the Wild and you spam wraths, you do a fuckload of damage. So that's actually really good too. If you want to do range damage, you don't feel like going in, you're uncomfortable going in because they have like they have CC ready for you, but you're trying to help secure a kill. Go into tree form, Heart of the Wild, start spamming race, and you'll also get your mana back because of the Master Shapeshifter talent. That's really good too. That's pretty much how I play twos. Pretty much just always go for Cyclones. I'll go over DRs here later. That's kind of like an overall general healer thing that healers should all be looking for, but just make sure that you're doing your setups when they don't have DRs on them. Because you don't want to like quarter rake, right? You want to have like a quarter bash or like a half bash. You want to have like a quarter clone. Like, you want your CCs to be as impactful as they are, seeing as their cooldown is a lot longer than the duration of a DR in the first place. So it's just worth waiting. So if you see that another thing real quick, if you see that your DPS is like really tanking in health, right? Something you can do is you can Swift Mend NS, and then you can cast Regrowth. That will top somebody. I mean, I could go over the statistics, but I don't want to sit here forever talking about, you know, just the healing rotation, but the healing bonus of Regrowth from Nature's Swiftness is increased by 35% with Nature's Splendor, so that just increases the overall amount that Nature's Swiftness increases Regrowth. And then with Swift Mend, you get Soul of the Forest, which healing of your next regrowth or rejuvenation is increased by 150%. So you're getting damn near almost a 200% increase on your regrowth cast by Swift Mending before you NS and then cast regrowth. So that'll top someone's HP bar fucking all the way. So always make sure that that's kind of like your life-saving ability. It's almost like a more powerful version of like a Holy Priest's Serenity. That's what that is. Yeah, the rotation in twos is just Life Bloom, Rejuve, and then Regrowth. You want to keep all 3 of these up when there's obviously a lot of damage out. Feel free if there's like no damage going on, as long as you're not deep into damp. When you're deep into damp, you need to keep all 3 up, but on the start of the arena, if there's not like a big offensive cooldown being used, like Avatar, Wings, etc., so on and so forth, Combust, you could honestly just keep like Life Bloom and Rejuve up, and then just Regrowth when necessary. So this way you have more time in cat. You do setups, goes, build combo points for your maims, put some damage out with like Rake and Rip, right? So that's big. It's pretty much everything. Cooldown trading I'll go into for all healers overall here later in the video. So a lot of things here I'll just go over later. Also, don't forget Overgrowth. So a lot of people use Overgrowth to open, so that way it applies all the hots. That's really bad. Don't do that. Don't be lazy. Apply your hots. Overgrowth is strictly to be used when, say, for instance, right, an enemy Rdruid, right, does the filthy wombo combo of like the Rake into Clone into etc., and now all your Overgrowth, now all your hots are falling off your DPS. Well, if you used Overgrowth on the opener because you were too lazy to just flat out apply them, now once they're off, now you have nothing to apply them with instantly, and they fucking fall over. So what I do is I hold my Overgrowth for times when I'm CC'd, and when I leave that CC, all the hots are falling off, I'll just press Overgrowth, put myself back. You don't want to fall behind on healing as a druid, and it definitely comes with practice knowing when you're safe, when you're not safe. But we'll go over some stuff to like look out for here later in the video. and like different things. Alright, so 3s. So with 2s, you should already understand the CC we have available. And in 3s, you're gonna use almost fucking none of that. You should never CC in 3s unless you notice that somebody has really poor positioning. Now, just as a reminder to everybody watching the guide, here later on in the video, I'll be going over healer role specific things like DRs, cooldown trading, paying attention to the screen, importance of position / kiting, baiting kicks. When I say paying attention to the screen, I mean like where to look, where to set things up. So we'll be going over that here in a little bit, but I'm just going to go through the bread and butter rotations and stuff like that, and then everything important will be at the end of the video, which actually does pertain to all healers. So alright, as far as your overall rotation for 3s, I'm running a rake build just as like a rake opener thing. We're gonna ignore that for right now and probably put it into, fuck did I have this put into? I feel like I had that put into something else. No, guess I didn't. Oh, physical damage and armor increase. Just this way I have the extra armor, because armor is cracked right now in the war within. It's overtuned. That aside, so we'll be going over certain things later on in the video that are more, I'd say niche, or not really niche, but like important things, more of the overall general stuff for healers, but mostly pertaining to Rdruid. But as far as our bread and butter, right, so this is my 3s talent, longer rejuve, pretty much everything is just to increase and maximize the amount of throughput you have. So, as another refresher, once again, you're going to be running Wild Stalker, because Symbiotic Blooms is an extra hot that you gain now, which heals the target over 8 seconds, and every time you cast a Swift Mend, causes a symbiotic bloom to grow on the target for 8 seconds, and that's every time you Swift Mend. And it's a whole new hot that stacks off of mastery, and you can also stack the hot itself. It doesn't reapply, it stacks. And so what you do is you run prosperity, so you have 2 charges of Swift Mend, which also gives you more Tree of Life procs. So it all kind of just blends together. So more Tree of Life means more throughput. Prosperity having 2 charges means more symbiotic blooms, which means more healing. So this is what I'm running. If you're curious as to why I'm running Wild Stalker over Keeper of the Grove, watch the hero talents part. But so the only things that have really changed for Rdruid, if you're reoccurring Rdruid, let's just hit that real quick, is obviously what I just spoke on, and then the biggest thing for me that I had to deal with, Cenarian Ward being absolutely just garbage. It's really just another hot to me. So if somebody is falling behind in health and they're struggling to recover, and I don't really have any other hots to throw on them, I'll just throw an extra sim ward, I'll throw the sim ward on top just to be safe. I use it more of like an extra hot, less of like a defensive I can extend now due to not having Verdant. So as far as 3s, your biggest thing is just learning when to trade Iron Bark, which I'll go over in cooldown trading. So that's one of your biggest utils, and then just overall just your basic hots. So it's really just keeping Life Bloom up, regrowth, and then your rejuve. It's just keeping these up, keeping them in rotation, and playing with other people. I can definitely pull up like a full-on, I'll probably pull up like a VOD, or I'll make a couple videos of 3s going over it as well when the season drops. Which is why I'm not trying to be super in-depth with the healing rotation on Rdruid, but it's pretty much just Life Bloom 2 targets, regrowth out, and then rejuve. Now just remember that your Life Bloom, While life bloom is on yourself, your pre-doc heals heal 10% faster. So early on, you want to life bloom both your DPS, as long as you know you're not the go target. You want to life bloom both your DPS, and while both your DPS are life bloomed, right, you want to make sure that you're keeping your life blooms up and trading Iron Bark whenever there's an enemy offensive going on. So that's big. And then later on, during dampening, when dampening hits about like 40%, even like 30%, honestly, I'd even go as far as to say like, well, this is 3s. 40 and 50 really only pertains to like 2s. So like between 10% or anything past 10%, you need to be life blooming yourself. That way you get the increased healing from having it on yourself. You life bloom yourself, and then you kind of just swap your life bloom around between what target is being hit more often than not. A little bit of advice to see who the enemy's targeting is get arena targeted frames, and it'll show a little glass color square pertaining to what the enemy is targeting on your team. So say there's a DK on the enemy team and they're targeting me, I'll have a little red square here. They're targeting my DPS, there'll be a little red square here, and that pertains and works for all classes. So that's really good to have. If you need that, feel free to message me on the Discord. I can get you set up with it, but that helps a freaking lot. Another thing too is making sure you have your Mark of the Wild up. I used to have a weak aura that told me whenever it got purged, but now I just reapply it because it's common sense most of the time to just reapply it when I hear a purge go out and none of my hots got purged. I'll just reapply it real quick. It is 100,000 mana. Just be careful with how often you apply it. I normally don't reapply it if, say, it's purged out the gates. But say later on in the arena, as long as my mana is looking fine and it does get purged, that 3% versatility is massive later on during dampening. So if you have the mana for it, it is definitely worth trading as long as you have the mana for it. But yeah, it's just your healing rotation. If somebody is getting sent on with big damage, trade like 2 Trints for them. You always want to try and keep a Trint on for backup for later, or say something's going on, or say like they have like a mini go, like a Paladin has like a wing proc, or Warrior has like an avatar proc, so that we have that extra Grove Guardian for when they use it. So normally I only really keep 2 max at a time, or 1 on the side. I'll use 3 if I'm in like a panic situation, like I get out of a CC, my hots have fallen off, so I OG triple tree if I have them, just as a safety net. But yeah, so really it's just Swift Mend. See Symbiotic Blooms there, so you Swift, that's a lot, every 1.8 seconds, but yeah, so you Swift Mend, and then Regrowth, Swift Mend, and then Regrowth. Do remember that when you Swift Mend now, since you don't have Verdant Infusion, it doesn't increase. Swift Mend now removes a haunt. It will always prioritize Regrowth is what it removes, and then it will take Rejuve. So you always want to make sure that you are having Regrowth on the target. So normally on the gates when I open, I will double Life Bloom my DPS and then Regrowth myself, and then I'll Swift Mend the Regrowth on myself. That way I have the Symbiotic Blooms, and then I could Swift Mend somebody else or something else, but just this way I have Symbiotic Blooms on myself, which is a little hot, or which is a hot that I'll get in case I get swapped to, but it allows me to have a more powerful Regrowth to apply to my DPS, who are more than most likely taking the brunt of the damage. Or like a stronger Rejuve. That's what I normally do on the opener. But yeah, just remember to keep your freeze, and Swift Mend now removes Regrowth, but that stacks. As you can see, I have 1 there, and then I do it again, I have 2 now. So yeah, pretty much it. If you're being sent on, I kind of went over this in 2s, but if you're being sent on, right, like you're the go target, you never want to trade Trank first. A lot of Rdruids panic and they trade Trank first, and they end up dying due to like an assassination rogue, or like any rock class, like a DK Unholy or like a Lock Afflick, you guys just die through Trank. Stop tranking instantly. Now, I'm not even being rude, it's just, it's not what you should be doing, right? So, what you should be doing is if they're coming to you, right, and now you're getting pumped on, you want to bear. You want to pre-bear. It's called pre-bearing is what we call it, I guess. And you always just want to pre-bear every time they come towards you. And when you pre-bear, you can throw some trees out, and then you get healed through that. And then you could Heart of the Wild, doubled Frenzied Regen. I don't know why that game's fucking wild, but you could double Frenzied Regen, so on and so forth. So that's what you would do initially. You wouldn't immediately go into tree, hot yourself up, and then decide to trank. Like, don't ever do that. If they're coming at you, you want to maybe throw like a regrowth on yourself, or like a Rdruid. Yeah, throw like a Rejuve Life Bloom, then immediately go into bear, and then double Frenzied Regen with Heart of the Wild up. And you will live. You'll live. You will live. Or what you could also do is if a DPS is coming over to you and you don't even want to bother with them, you could just bash them, and then right towards the end of the bash, as I said, do the kickbaity thing where you line up your clone to have a time difference between the bash and the clone if they have trinket, and you could like, or if they don't have trinket, you could like clone off the edge, so that way they bait the kick, you get the clone. That way it's like right on the edge, which is why you would want to run something like a reclone. Another thing you could do is if you see them running over after you and they're far away from their healer, you could honestly just root them and then go into mount form. So they're coming over to you, you could just root them, mount form, wild charge away. Other pillar now. That simple. Healer's not going to cross mid-map to dispel the fucking dumbass who's over there. So that's really good outplays too, which I'll go over. I should really be going over that in the positioning / kiting section of the guide, but really it's just that. Also, you could trade Bear if they're coming on you. Bear, Heart of the Wild, Frenzied Regen, or if you have Hots on you preemptively, right? Like you get a full row of Hots on you preemptively. Throw a Sin Ward on top of that, then go Bear, then Barkskin. You won't die either. I promise you won't die. The only time you want to use Trank as a defensive, which believe me, you will, but the only time you want to use it is when you've already used up all of your Bear form abilities, like Barkskin with Bear and Frenzied Regen, Heart of the Wild, so you get the double. The only time you Trank is deeper into Damp, because Frenzied Regen won't do a whole lot for you when you're deep into Damp, but Trank will. So don't trade Trank instantly. So many Rdruids do that. It's really bad. Put you guys behind. That's pretty much it. I didn't really go over this in twos, but the PvP talents, they don't ever change. In twos, maybe I'll run Tireless Pursuit. Actually, I'll run Tireless Pursuit. This is the only other talent I play. Okay, so if I'm playing against a Fistweaver double melee comp, I'll play Thorns, but if I'm not, I'll run Tireless Pursuit, which just allows me to swap forms, like, constantly. I can just keep form swapping. Like, I can just keep form swapping. So this way the slows, because every time you shapeshift, it breaks slows. So it just allows me to break slows constantly, and they can never get on me. So Tireless Pursuit is good, which also helps if, say, they're on top of me, they're doing a lot of damage, I'm in cat, I leave cat, I still have Tireless Pursuit for 2 seconds, so I'm still as fast as cat form, so I can heal, go back into cat, go back around cat, cast my heals out, still as fast as I was in cat form, go back into cat, so on, so forth. So, normally what I'll do if like a warrior's on me is I'll just kite right around the pillar, and then as soon as I get in line with my DPS, who is middle of the field, I'll come out of cat, heal, but I'll have Tireless Pursuit still, so I can keep running, go back around the pillar and cat, leave cat, heal my second, or heal my DPS, go back into cat. Get out of cat, heal my DPS, back into cat, just so on and so forth. Like, if a DPS is sitting on you that hard in 3s, that's something you could do. I mostly advise the bear option or the root leap away option. The cat option works really good in 2s. Not so much in 3s, but I have done it before and it's worked out. It just wasn't the prettiest thing to watch. But yeah, man, that's really just healing. Efflorescence, I see a lot of druids use this. It's just a lot of mana, dude. A lot of mana for only 15,000 health every 1.8 seconds. 15,000 health every 1.8 seconds. For 85,000 mana, it's so bad. Say like a rogue smoke bombs my DPS, right? So I can't get over there, and I sure as fuck ain't gonna go into the smoke bomb. This brain dead. They should have had a trinket to trade for it, or free or something, or have the other DPS go in and peel. But long story short, if they do get smoke bombed, I will throw an efflorescence down. Another way to use trank is use trank when there's smoke bomb. Because trank and efflorescence work through smoke bomb and duel. So you could efflorescence, shadowy duel, and then trank, which will heal through shadowy duel. So stuff like that is really useful. But yeah, that's pretty much it. You never use wild growth, pretty much ever. I mean, if you have innervate up, right, and you have all your hots out, and you have some time left on innervate, and you don't want to waste innervate, and you're like, ah, fuck, I don't know what to do. Throw an efflorescence down, and then maybe get a wild growth out. But realistically, innervating is pretty crazy. In 3s, your opener should be gates open, start in tree form, innervate, hot. Like, this is your opener tree form. And then you just keep swift mending to extend the time. Keep on swift mending to extend the time. Yep, and you just sit in tree the whole time. The whole time you just sit in tree. Look at how long I'm in tree. It's actually insane. So that's one thing. And then to drink, you want to use that macro I spoke on earlier for removing the trents. Go into shadow meld, drink, stealth. And normally what people will do is the second they hear that you're drinking, they'll start running over. What I like to do is just get a quick little sip in, right? And then I will use either dash or a stampeding roar to swap pillars, go to the other pillar, and then drink there. Because if you had sat there, 100% they would have AoE'd and broke it. But this way you get to swap and drink just a little bit more by swapping pillars. It's really case scenario. It depends on the position your DPS are in as far as cooldowns to trade, but that's the best way to get the most mana out of the time you have. Because you can really only shadow meld once every 2 minutes, and as an Rdruid, waiting for combat to drop when your hots are fucking falling and your teammates are getting purged, waiting for combat to drop manually is like the worst fucking thing you can deal with. So that's a really good thing to do, is just wait for shadow melds. Make sure you are min-maxing the amount of mana you can gain from your shadow meld drinks. Make sure that. Remember that casting roots does not create combat. So say that there's a warrior or a warrior coming over to you, you can root him and you still won't be in combat. So say, like, for instance, you did the shadow meld, rank this, right, and you see the warrior start coming, you could quickly peek over, root him, and then swap pillars and drink some more. Or you could see that the warrior's coming, right, see that the warrior's coming, root him, go back behind the pillar, continue drinking. As soon as that root's about to end, right, you could just dash away. Hopefully no one will hit you, and then continue drinking. So those are some options you have too. Yeah, that's pretty much everything you really think of. In 3s, your DPS rotation is once again Moonfires. and Wrath when you're in tree form. So that way you get the, because Wraths are insta-cast and increases the damage, and because I run Master Shapeshifter. This is a floating talent that you could put into like Dream State, which reduces the cooldown of your other Druid spells, or you could put it into like increasing the heal of your Rejuvenation by 15%, or instantly heals for 15%. You could also swap Master Shapeshifter over with Liveliness. That's an option as well, which just increases the how fast you heal over time effects. Heal by 5%. That's another option. So that's a talent you can move around. Improve Nature's Curse, you pretty much always want to run. But if you're playing against two comps, or a comp that doesn't use curses or poisons, I mean, you could move it around for something like Feline Swiftness. Just this way you're a little bit faster in the cat form, which again is like the whole kiting and running away thing, so that's pretty big too, but for the most part you're always going to run this. For PvP talents, you pretty much always want to get these two. Your healing rotation, once again, is Life Bloom is your most important heal. It does the most healing overall. If I look at Life Bloom, so you want to make sure that you have 2 stacks of Focused Growth, and that you are life blooming in the last 5 seconds of your life bloom's duration, so that way it actually blooms, which is buffed by this talent. Life bloom's healing is increased by 6% each time it heals, up to 90%, and it also increases life bloom's final bloom amount. That final bloom amount is that right there with the little flower that came up from below my feet. Yeah, that's 3s. Alright, so this is kind of, this part will be quick, but the importance of positioning and kiting. As far as positioning goes, as Rdruid, if you can't play behind a pillar or next to a pillar, etc., etc., you want to be playing max range. So here, the only reason I'm able to get these clones off is because these are both melee. With melee kicks, they can't kick my clone from this far away, so I'm able to get 1 clone on him. Now I position myself a little bit further back, and get the 2nd clone. And the 3rd clone. I couldn't do that if I was right next to everything going on. So play max range if you can't play on a pillar to do everything. Really, the only time you should be going in is when you're going for damage, or like a cat rake or a cat maim or bash. Other than that, you stay the fuck back. If you guys need gameplay, watch some of my YouTube videos or stop by my Twitch stream. Alright, so let's talk important of positioning. You see that I'm on a pillar. Me and my Ellie Shaman playing the pillar together. We want to be on a pillar. If you're ranged, or as a healer especially. But so I'll position myself away from the fight, even if it's on the same pillar. Now I'm on this side, they're on the right side of the pillar. So I can kind of just come out, go behind the pillar, right? And then I go into, travel form, kite around before they're able to get a cast on me. Healing my guy, always staying next to my DPS so I can keep him healed. Kind of just go out far as I can away, max range it. Wasn't sure how deep he was going to push in, but see how I'm by the pillar. Go around the pillar. I'm going in for probably like a maim, yeah, called it. Just playing by the pillar. You always want to be on a pillar. Even if these motherfuckers were mid-map, I'd still be on a pillar. You're able to line casts. Say that this evoker was casting Sleepwalk on me, I could just go behind the pillar at the end of his cast and it wouldn't hit me. Or say that the mage was, I don't know, for instance, bursting into me or something, I could just go behind the pillar and line it. Like, playing a pillar is a defensive that you have with your WASD keys if you're on it or extremely near it. Abuse it. As you can see, I'm just running around the pillar. They're on that side, so I'm on this side. Like, I'm always, like dude, our positioning is so good, dude. This Ellie Shaman's so talented. I love him so much. I wish we talked more. This guy's so fucking good. See how he's on the right side of the pillar, but I'm always behind it, and we're always keeping them away from the healer. He's playing goalie for me. Your DPS need to pretty much play goalie for you. blinks in. Obviously, mages are the hardest. You'd think it'd be like a warrior or like a something, fucking anything other than a mage. You'd think would be the worst thing on a pillar, but it's a mage because they can just fucking TP on the other side of the pillar. It's just tough, but fine. Yeah, man, you just stay behind the pillar. All it is. It's full videos, obviously, on my Twitch or on my YouTube. But yeah, dude, just playing pillar. I go out of the pillar, obviously, because this guy got kicked, so I clone off the kick. Pretty straightforward. Yeah, man, like, playing pillar is huge. Like, you always want to be on a pillar. You're literally, like, I've only ever been duelist. Cloud's only ever been duelist. We're playing against a top 50 mage and a multi-glad healer in 2s, and we're winning purely off of the fact, or I wouldn't say purely off of the fact, but mainly off of the fact that we are abusing the fuck out of these pillars. Pillars are important and a useful tool. Please, for the love of God, stop neglecting them as a healer. Like, notice how I go into cat, I'm behind the pillar, but then I go into cat to do my thing, then I go right fucking back behind the pillar. Like you need to be only going in cat form and pushing in when it's vital or viable. And you need to be behind the pillar otherwise. Like, that's... Pillar is extremely useful. The importance of positioning, far as staying max range and using a pillar to your advantage. I mean, it's right here in front of your eyes. On the opener, out of these guys, they kind of catch me out in the middle, sleepwalk, it's fine, it's whatever. My homie couldn't shear, or the shear was on cooldown. Either way, it's fine. Like, he'll burst into me, and this is what I meant earlier. Most druids in this situation would just instant trank. Stop tranking. Watch. I'll go into bear, I'll press bark skin, frenzied region with heart of the wild. Dude, I'm fine. That's a full combust out of him. I didn't have to press trank because we're not deep into damp. I'm okay. Fine. Like, it's really fine. Like, you don't need to press trank as defensive. Never do it first. Ever. I don't even think I tranked that whole game. Probably should have. Useful, but seriously, guys, like, position next to a pillar. Notice how when he started going on me, I committed to getting to that pillar. I did. I committed to getting right over to that pillar. Pillars are just that important, man. They just are. So, there you go. That's my advice on positioning as a healer in general. Healers, flat out, pillar, especially disc priest. Stop playing out in the middle as a disc priest unless you're about to go in for a fear. So, definitely be playing pillars. Alright, so now we're going to go over DRs. So DRs are diminishing returns. The first time you stun somebody, it'll be a full. The second time you stun or CC. The first time you CC somebody, it'll be full. The second time you CC somebody, it'll be half. And the last time you CC somebody, it'll be a quarter. And then after that, they're immune until the DR resets. All arena frame add-ons will track DRs. This way you don't get confused. Rdruids have their clone on Fear DR, and then Rake, Bash, and Maim are on Stun DRs. So those are two different DRs, two different DRs that you have to manage. For example, here, watch this Hunter's frame. Get the clone on him. Now he has a clone DR. So now the next clone I do on him will not be 6 seconds. It will be 3 or 4. 3. It'll be 3. I'm stupid. It'll be 3. And now that DR icon's now yellow. And the next time I clone him, it'll be 2 seconds. I maim this guy. Just put him on stun DR. So now the stun DR is 22 seconds. So the next time I stun him, it'll be 2 seconds. Maim's weird. It might be 3. But then I bash, so see I bash, which is another stun, so now that's 2 seconds that he's on DR, and then the next DR, it'll be a full second, which I get stunned, I trink, I then rake him, it's now a 1 second, but now, throughout all of that, I believe he had a Fear DR, which fell off, yeah, so his Fear DR finally fell off, so I started that chain, and then I raked, and then I cloned him. So, that's how DRs work. Abuse them. Really, really fucking abuse them and pay attention to them. Because you'll notice that I did not start that entire CC chain until I knew that by the time that bash was done, my last CC was a rake, and that fear fell off of DR, so I knew that as soon as I finished that rake, I would be able to stun him. He bashed me. I know that he doesn't have any other CC for me, so easy peasy lemon squeezy. That's simple. So just paying attention to things like that. That's DRs. That's the best way to explain it as an Rdruid. Same thing with a priest. Holy priestess priest. Your chastise is a stun, but your fear is a fear DR. So pay attention to DRs. Also to add to DRs as an Rdruid, you clone somebody. Wait for me to open. But if you clone somebody, like I do here, you can swipe while in cat form into that to build up those combo points for your maim charges. So make sure that if you clone somebody, you swipe into them if you can to get those to get the maim charges so you can maim. Alright, so cooldown trading. So I'm just going to give a really quick simple example. We actually were just looking at this this little clip, but so he pops True-Shot Aura. I'm swiping. I realize that my hunter hasn't traded Survival Instincts for the enemy's True-Shot Aura, or traded Exhilarate or Pet Sack for the True-Shot Aura. So since he didn't want to trade anything, which should have, no offense to them, but it is now my responsibility to trade for them. So my first cooldown, I believe, let's see what my first cooldown is. It should be Barkskin. Yep, perfect. It was Ironbark. Yep. My first cooldown is Ironbark, which gives them a, I believe it was a 20 or 30% damage reduction. So I Ironbark them, and then I proceed to, I believe, yep, Trees, Swiftmend, NS, Regrowth, which I spoke earlier. That's how you top them back up. Realistically, the best way to top somebody is going to be to Swiftmend, Nature Swiftness, Regrowth, and if they refuse to trade an ability, like if he popped True-Shot Aura, that should be an instant Pet Sack, or technically an instant Survival Instincts. However, he didn't do that, so I put Barkskin on him and then topped him. That's pretty much how trading works. You really have to learn, and this is the thing about WoW, is it's a knowledge-based game. It is not mechanical. Sure, there's classes that are more mechanical requirements, or like it requires more mechanical to play, more mechanical skill, but World of Warcraft is a knowledge-based game. You have to know your class and every other class's cooldowns. You have to be making trading. You have to trade cooldowns. It's literally a card game. WoW is a card game. Is the simplest way to explain it. If you're stuck in lower rating, then I promise you that it's 95% that you are not learning all the other classes and their cooldowns, and you are not trading efficiently. You have to learn every single class's abilities. Maybe not their damage rotation. I don't know any classes damage rotation except for a select few. That's not really necessary. Helpful, not the priority we should be having right now. It's just learning the big cooldowns. So True Shot should get a instant Survival Instincts, not an Exhilaration. Which once again, this is the Omni CD, this is Gladius EX, this is S Arena, and this right here is Omni CD, which shows me their stuns. So yeah, that's cooldown trading. I wish I had another video where I could explain cooldown trading a little bit more as well as another example, but I guess another example would be, say that this is a Fire Mage and he just popped Combust. My hunter should trade Survival Instincts, or if he doesn't, I trade Barkskin for him. To be fair, the cooldown on True-Shot Aura is really long, so even if he did Survival Instincts, it would still be a really good idea for me to bark him, because by the time that he has True-Shot Aura up, I'll have bark ready and available again. Also on the note of trading, this goes for Disc Priest and other stuff. So say that he didn't trade anything, so you trade, or realistically Disc Priest is a little bit different, but say like he didn't trade his Survival Instincts, you would train Pain Sup. Or say that I didn't have Bark Skin, or the Disc Priest didn't have Pain Sup in this situation, but our hunter decided to still not press anything, then you would most likely trade Bark Skin for Druid, and then also go into tree form, and then do your normal healing rotation. But I'd do the same thing I did here with the Swift Mend, Nature Swiftness, Regrowth. As a Disc Priest, you would probably go in, you'd probably Pain Sup them, and then go into Rapture, and then start healing that way. So sometimes you need to trade more than just one thing. So that's how that works. And say I didn't have Bark Skin in this situation for whatever fucking reason, I would instantly trade Swiftmend into NS into Regrowth for the topping of his health, and then I would immediately go into tree form and try and just keep him alive through this. So I'm trading tree form for his True Shot Aura, or I'm trading Bark Skin for his True Shot Aura because my hunter didn't trade anything for the True Shot Aura. So on, so forth, stuff like that. Alright, so now to touch on paying attention to the screen and what to look at as a healer. So something that Absturge said after the AWC of Dragonflight, the last one, was his eyes hurt from looking all over his screen so much, which is funny in retrospect, but no one's really talked about it too much. It's only been mentioned by Sea-Doo, Absturge, I mean, the list goes on. It's been mentioned, but it's never, like, actually explained. So, you have every healer has a global cooldown. Obviously, all classes do. Rogues is a little bit shorter, if I'm correct. But your global cooldown is normally a second and a half. You need to be looking, when you're on global cooldown, right? You can't really do anything. So there's no point in staring in one spot. During that global cooldown, you want to look like here to over here, right? And then use a cooldown. And then look from like here to over here for your cooldowns, and then use a global cooldown and look to over here. So your eyes want to be moving. This is why I have everything right here, so it can just move from here to here to here to here, like my eyes can keep moving that. So you need to be reacting quick. You can't just stare at, say, your teammates' health bars in panic mode. You can't. You have to be paying attention to the second that an offensive is pressed, so that way you can trade for that offensive instantly. What a lot of people don't understand, especially DPS, is that they are trading based on their health percentage. No, you need to be trading something the second something is placed. For instance, if you were playing, I don't really play Magic the Gathering anymore, it's been a long time, but for instance, if you were playing Magic the Gathering and somebody placed down a really strong fucking enemy or monster card, right, and then started attacking you, you wouldn't finally decide to place down a wall, or you wouldn't finally decide to place down a bigger monster to fight that in the card game after your health had already been taken, or, sunken, and you've been taking damage. You wouldn't just sit there and let them beat on you until your health gets low for you to finally place a card. It's literally your fucking turn. Why are you passing up your turn to make a play? There can be no time wasted. Like people don't understand how quick you have to react and how far that takes you by reacting quickly to these cooldowns. And that's why I say WoW is a knowledge-based game, because you cannot react based on your health bar. If he were to press Survival Instincts at 10% HP, 30% damage reduction while he's at 10% HP means jack fucking shit. You're 30% damage reduction while you have 10% HP. I mean, like, that makes no difference, realistically, versus you having 30% damage reduction at 90% HP because you just saw that he used True Shot Aura, which increases his damage. You need to be trading your abilities in reaction to what your enemies are pressing. You can't be reacting to your health bar. You just can't. And that goes for you as the healer, as your responsibility. If you notice that your DPS is not trading something, that you trade for them. And 9 times out of 10, you can just trade bark skin regardless, because it'll be back up by the next time most of these DPS have their big cooldowns up. So that works out really well for us as druids. So that's super important. Trade for your DPS if they refuse to trade for themselves. There are situations where your DPS can't trade for themselves. Say they're in a stun or they're in a CC, right? Because if for instance here, if my hunter got maimed by the Rdruid and then he pressed True Shot Aura, obviously he has Trinket, let's disregard that, ignore Trinket, pretend it's on cooldown. If that had happened while he was stunned, that True Shot Aura came up, he can't trade for himself. It is 1000% my responsibility to trade for him, and there is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So I'd have to instantly bark skin him and then go into tree to then trade for him. So that's kind of the concept of that. But that wouldn't be possible to do if I wasn't constantly looking around at my screen, so I knew what I had available, and the chance that something did come up, the second it came up, I could react with it, or seeing, okay, do they have trap ready, or do they have maim ready, or do they have bash ready? Because if they have those things ready, then I know that they're going to be coming in for CC on me. Like, I know that there's trap available here, all just from quickly looking around, like split second looking down. I see that he has trap available because it's not on cooldown. So if he has trap available, I know that he's going to trap me soon. That's something I need to now watch for, is it's traps. So don't let him get close to me, and if he does, I can come to my teammate, hey, he's getting close to me, he's going in for a trap. And then that allows my DPS to keep an eye out on if I'm being trapped or not. Now if my DPS knows that the enemy hunter's coming in for a trap on me, he could pre-survival instinct the trap. I get trapped, he instantly presses survival instincts, that's a trade. I mean, just saying, like, you just constantly have to be looking around your screen, so that way you can also see what's being casted. Say that this druid's casting Cyclone, he's kind of off here in the center, so I mean, couldn't really see it, but if Cyclone's up right here, I know that I need to either react with like stunning him or going low. So constantly moving your eyes around the screen is super important, so that way you're able to get all of this information. That's why I keep it all so close, because people who have like their party frame over here, their arena frame over here, constantly looking side to side, I can't even find that, versus just moving my eyes in a circle in between global cooldown. All it is. It's a lot to do, it's super fucking sweaty, but this is how it's played. It's all played right here for me. Positioning we'll get into later, but it's all played right here for me. This is my video game right here. Alright, last but not least, World PvP. This is kind of just what I've been doing right now, because there's nothing to really do in the pre-patch currently. So, World PvP, my hero talents, the only thing that I changed from everything else is this to this. So, you basically get Bloodseeker Vines now, which is, so long story short, we can read through the talents, but I'll quickly skim over them so you can see, and then I'll just explain what it does and why it does it. Sorry, that's my guild leader. So long story short, your main source of damage when in World PvP is going to be stealth. You're gonna open with a rake and then a convoke, right? And then you're gonna rip. Ah, fuck, I changed it real quick. Right, there we go. And then you're gonna rip, and then you're going to swipe, 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 and then you're gonna Ferocious Bite on the 4th, because you're not gonna get it to 5th in time, I don't think. But basically, long story short, reason you do that. Oh, where is it? I know it's here somewhere. Rip and Ferocious Bite damage increased, yeah. Where is it? I want to give you guys word for word rather than just me summarizing it. When Bloodseeker vines expire, or you use Ferocious Bite on their target, they explode in thorns, dealing increased damage to nearby enemies. So your Ferocious Bite basically gets a mini buff by having Rake and Rip on them, and then when you Ferocious Bite, it gets a damage buff from the vines. So that's why you want a Ferocious Bite after having everything up. In World PvP, you can literally just do everything we talked about earlier. Bear form, right? Heart of the Wild, Frenzied Region to survive, right? But if you go... So I don't have it fully yet because I'm technically in my arena skirmish. I finally got the shoulder pads for World PvP. But you want to build full critical and versatility. Because your whole plan, right? Like, obviously the bleeds and everything are how you kill somebody later on down the road. Or if your Convoke doesn't work, then your bleeds will kill them. But the whole build is cheese. Rake, Convoke, and 9 times out of 10 it'll just one-shot somebody. Gladly show you guys in practice. If maybe I can get some footage here for that, but that's pretty much all it is. If the Rake out of stealth Convoke doesn't work, then literally, I promise to God, never fight another healer. I'm not saying you wouldn't win, I'm just saying nobody ever wins in those. If I see another healer, I dip. But if it's a DPS, I can literally win by keeping Thrash up, Rake up, Rip up, Moonfire, and then just heal myself. Heal myself. And then as soon as I see those start ticking down, like Rake's down at like Thrash is about to end, so I renew it. That's about to end, I renew it. So on and so forth. Rip's about to end, so I renew it. Moonfire. Oh, look at that. I have Convoke up. Bash. Into Convoke again. Into Thrash. And then I'll bite since I see the Bloodseeker vine is up. So, yeah. Honestly, like, I know that sounds like super simple to win in these 1v1s out in the world, but like it is that simple. It really is that simple. It's just keeping the dots up, ferocious biting when you have at least 4 combo points, ferocious biting when you have at least 4 combo points, and you see Bloodseeker is up, and then just healing yourself. They'll fall over in time. And then if you see that Convoke is available, simply just stun them, and then Convoke, fall right the fuck over. So that's pretty much what that is. Yeah, that's World PvP, man. It's pretty simple. These are my talents for World PvP. The Call of the Elder Druid and Dream of Cenarius actually works in World PvP pretty decently. It sucks absolute balls anywhere else in the PvP situation right now. But yeah, if you want, just copy paste these talents. My thing is there's no reason I should read you guys these talents or go over them with you, because my outlook on that is if you are serious about getting better at the game or being good at the game, at bare minimum you should have at least read over all of your talents. If you guys have questions, however, about how talents interact with each other, or maybe not understanding how a talent works, that's completely different. Feel free to hit me up in the Discord. I'd be more than glad to assist with any questions of how a talent interacts with the rest of your playstyle, rest of your build, rest of your stats, so on and so forth. You should at least read through your talents, you know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, guys, that's the end of the video. If you guys liked the content, feel free to drop a follow or a sub, check me out on Twitch, join the Discord, hit me up. Be more than glad to coach. I do free coachings. I'm not a multi-glad, but at least help some of you lower MMR players out. If you guys want free queues or just queues in general, I don't charge for those. There's a lot of people in my shoes who are jerks and toxic elitists. I'm just trying to help out the PvP community because I have people go out their way to help me out. So yeah, hope everybody has a great rest of their night, and Tokyo out.
said what's up, bitch what's up, bitch try to suck on my dick, on my tip, it's funny, right click the grip on my grip on my hollow point tip, your lip, because if it's so on my way, bitch move it, fuck it up, I got up with too many bangs, probably studied up, but what I got in my veins, nigga stomach, fuck, they keep a strap up on my waist, I got a hollow tuck, like damn, move out my way, got new money, come on bitch, that my paper, 50 cents, 29, catch a case, with no keys, electric race, like what the fuck, you bitch, you